It's the Real Estate Podcast, brought to you by ANZ Home Loans for financial well-beings.
As we're just talking about, there's this whole middle market that's finding it hard as well. So I really think that there needs to be relief overall, and it probably comes from cost of living, and it probably comes in the way of wage growth. But that will help everybody, not just first home buyers. A lot of the policies that are announced, I think, have the potential to be inflationary to prices, which again hurts the very people it's trying to help.
And that is Brett Sutton in Sydney joining us this morning on the Real Estate Breakfast, and we'll get back to that conversation in just a moment. Welcome back to another episode, your largest real estate podcast library in Australia. Yes, over 1,000 episodes for you to surf through. There is something there for anyone who could want to know anything with regard to real estate, or who has a fascination of wanting to be right up to school with the latest property developments. And we are talking property from Maroochydore to Footscray in Melbourne. And you can stream us anytime, anywhere on multiple platforms, including Amazon and Apple Podcasts this morning. Well, it is a Wednesday, April the 23rd, and if you took an extra day and have just returned back to work today, nothing like a long 5-day Easter weekend and a very, very short week coming up for you. Well, this morning we are going to take a look at the middle income earners around Australia and the position that some are in when it comes to paying their mortgages. And we are catching up with Brett Sutton from Two Red Shoes there in Parramatta. And good morning to you, Brett. Welcome into the Real Estate Breakfast. I hope you had a fantastic Easter.
Good morning, Craig. Yes, always good to have a couple of days off in a row. We don't complain about that.
Yeah, for sure. Now, families earning 200,000 plus, many people will say, gee, you're lucky to be in that position, 200,000 plus. Surely you are not finding any difficulty in paying your mortgage. However, this is the situation for many Aussies. They're finding themselves barely scraping by, and the Aussie dream of home ownership has turned into a little bit of a financial juggling point. Is that what you're finding with some of your clients?
Yes, we're finding that there's this group of people who have done everything right by the textbooks. They've gone on to get tertiary educations, they're earning good incomes, they've bought their house in the suburbs, and they're finding that they're now a prisoner of that scenario, in the fact that with the rising house prices, typically salaried positions without a lot of wage growth, the cost of living crisis that we're experiencing, childcare as the family grows, these people are left with $0 left at the end of the week and having to make decisions about how they put food on the table.
Yes, people listening will definitely, Brett, be thinking, how is this possible when they're earning over $200,000 for the household income? Now, I get this on both sides of the equation. I have had the economists, the experts, they tell me that mortgage stress is easing across Australia right now. It's getting better. And then I hear the opposite, which is what we're talking about this morning. But I think that both can be true at the same time. It just very much depends on what you bought, how you leveraged yourself into that mortgage loan, and the way that the market dramatically changed on you, particularly after COVID, as to how you have been affected. And that's kind of what's happened with a lot of these cases.
Yes, spot on. The norm in 5 of Australia's capital cities now is that the average price of real estate is $1 million. So you have to start there. So anybody that's purchased in the last few years has had to borrow a lot of money just to get into the market. The average wage, unfortunately, no longer can afford the average capital city property. Couple that with the fact that there's been a real decline in living standards since the middle of 2002, and that's approximately 8%, plus pretty stagnant wage growth. And we end up in this situation that people are, looking at the rising cost of bills and wondering how they can put it all together. There will be people out there that will go, oh, poor them, they've got their house, whatever else. But unfortunately for many of these people, that if they sell the property and go and rent, it's not a considerable saving for them.
And stagnant wage growth, that is such a big problem in the climate that we are currently living in because of the way that the property market took off and has increased. We never will keep up in terms of the wages. And this looks set to just continue on its merry way. Obviously, things might change a little bit with people being a little bit more circumspect with new purchases and the interest rates coming back. But for those that bought at the top of the market, still quite a lot of decision-making to take place.
Yeah, absolutely. The great reshuffle that happened post-COVID, or the great resignation as it was in the headlines at the time, where there was lots of opportunities, the people did seem to get, a bit of a bump in wages as they moved around. That hid this for a period of time. And I think we're now finding the last couple of years, as savings are depleting, household savings have gone down. We're just in this situation now that as rates come down, that saving is going to go towards the cost of living in another area. So I don't see a lot of relief for a lot of these households until there's something happens at a higher level in terms of wages or cost of living relief.
Yeah, and when you're talking six-figure salaries and, a couple that are collectively earning over 200 grand and they're scraping by, only just scraping by, the dream home with no cash flow isn't a lot of fun, particularly when you've got the likes of, I think you've mentioned this, kids being pulled out of sports, all the luxuries are gone, every single dollar is accounted for.
Yeah, I genuinely believe it impacts productivity across the whole economy, where you look at it and go, well, the harder I work, I'm not getting any further in front. It just leads to burnout, job dissatisfaction. I'm not sure where the answer is amongst those people who are experiencing this, because unfortunately there's no cheap alternative anymore. I look around, Sydney, where we're based, and you go, all right, well, what if you move out a little bit further? It doesn't seem to get much cheaper.
Yeah, and burnout that you're talking about, you would have had these conversations where I guess you almost feel like throwing your hands up in the air because you're trying to do the numbers, you're trying to come up with some sort of an alternative, and they're just not there.
No. And that's the real battle. You can sit down with people who are, what would be considered good income earners, and they can't afford to buy the average house. It's even worse if you're a single. Singles really battle in this real estate marketplace because property prices are now designed around two incomes.
Before I let you go, got to ask you about the whole political landscape and the lolly scramble that I was talking about in the weekend. What do you think in terms of what is being proposed? You got some ideas?
My theory is that supply has got to be a big part of the solution. I don't see a lot of conversation about supply happening from either party. We're really targeting, a lot of their policies are targeting first home buyers, which is fantastic. But as we're just talking about, there's this whole middle market that's finding it hard as well. So I really think that there needs to be relief overall, and it probably comes from cost of living, and it probably comes in the way of wage growth. But that will help everybody, not just first home buyers. A lot of the policies that are announced, I think, have the potential to be inflationary to prices, which again hurts the very people it's trying to help.
I like this idea of generating 3D properties, building large factories across Australia and producing them at mass. People are talking about it, but there's got to be tons of money thrown at that because it's got to be done at scale.
Yeah, I've seen that idea and that concept, and I think it has a lot of benefits. I think there's so much red tape in development. We have lots of clients sitting on our books at the moment who we have loans approved for that are waiting for land to settle. That is typically just months and months of delays. If we can somehow streamline and quicken that process, we can get more houses built. There's demand to build. People want to build.
Without a doubt. All right then, Brett, we'll leave it there. Hey, enjoy your Wednesday. Thanks so much for coming on to the Real Estate Breakfast and offering up your thoughts this morning.
Pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me.
Let's fuel your passion for property together. Join us, along with our industry experts, to help inspire and inform your next real estate decision.
As I mentioned, we've got these young tech entrepreneurs and social media stars, if you can call them that. I guess that when you have these influencers and so many of them coming and gravitating towards Surfers Paradise, what they're doing is they're showing off the lifestyle on their media channels. It's really advertising that money can't buy because these are personal endorsements from people with a high number of followers. And when you think of the expression repetition builds reputation, that's exactly what these influencers are doing day in, day out for Surfers Paradise.
I couldn't agree more. It's the new way to market your property now on the Gold Coast. But more to the tech and the influences, an apartment in Surfers Paradise can offer a lot more privacy than what a house could back in the day. So I think they're enjoying the fact that, they're chasing the lifestyle and the location, not necessarily a big, block of land, or their priorities are shifting.
Now, you're dealing with a lot of these tech-based people. Where are they coming from? Like outside of Queensland, where are they migrating from?
Most still come from Brisbane, but outside of Queensland, then we are seeing a lot, it's from New South Wales. It's a really short run, or Newcastle down that way. It's not necessarily Victoria, mainly, Brisbane, Sunshine Coast and New South Wales is where they're coming from, because they can still be a plane ride away from friends and family, but have privacy and, their own oasis up here.
Get insider tips from industry professionals and level up your real estate game by unlocking the secrets of successful real estate transactions.
We're holding up these enormous commission numbers and celebrating that. That's actually not the way our group operates. If that's your motivation, you won't actually be using that moral compass that we talked about. You need to act with purpose.
But prior to social media, you didn't have all of that so visibly and in plain sight for younger people to look at and then aspire to. So it does create that sort of false narrative.
Well, I'm really fortunate here at Barry Plant. The very first high performers event I went to was fascinating, Craig, particularly given my previous history where I was used to certain patterns of behaviour from high performing agents. But I was looking around the room thinking, these people just look like normal people. They're talking like normal people. They're not carrying, $10,000 handbags. And that's one of the things I absolutely love about this group is that, even the high performers are very normal and very relatable and very humble.
We connect you to the best real estate information across Australia. The Real Estate Podcast.